Just to begin with, you're based in Nashville now after a long time in California. What prompted the move there?
Well, it seemed that when I used to come off the road, when I used to tour with James Taylor and Linda Ronstadt, there would be album projects that were going on in Los Angeles, people making records there, and anything in sort of the country rock style, and individuals that didn't have bands, and I would do sessions while I was in town. And then all of that seemed to move around 89 and 90. Anybody doing a country rock thing was now signed back here in Nashville. And all the recordings seem to be back here and not as much in Los Angeles anymore. And I wanted to stop touring. I been on the road for 20 years and was just trying to do sessions, so we decided to move back here and just concentrate on doing recording sessions and not touring anymore.
How do the two musical communities compare for you, Los Angeles and Nashville?
It really was pretty close, actually. When I first came here, there was some friends of mine from Los Angeles. Bernie Ledden from the Eagles was at the first session I've recorded here, and he said, this is like California was in the 70s, making the same kind of music, more like Eagle, Linda Ronstadt, and Jackson Browne kind of stuff, was mixing in with the country music, So it just seems to be pretty much the same thing with everybody recording live, which it started to switch in L.A. with just people overdubbing and building records track by track. Out here in Nashville, they still redo it like we did in California in the 70s with everybody playing at the same time,
Mm-hmm. Just to go back to your beginnings, do you remember your first guitar?
I first had a ukulele. My mom taught me to play ukulele when I was 7, and my first guitar I got when I was 14 was a Silvertone with the amp in the case, and I started playing right off on electric guitar, but I already knew how to play the top 4 strings from learning how to play the ukulele, so I had to jump on it.
When did you start to get attracted to the pedal steel?
Well, I started when I was listening to the country rock music out there, the Buffalo Springfield and Moby Grape and those kind of bands. And I think the song on the Buffalo Springfield, again, album called Kind Woman that Rusty Young was playing steel on. When I heard that, I think that's when the first time it really grabbed me. And then pretty close after that was Lay Lady Lay with Bob Dylan and Pete Drake playing. Yeah. And so I was exposed to it more from the country rock side rather than straight country. And then the Flying Burrito Brothers started playing around California, and I went to see them quite a bit, and I bought my first steel from Sneaky Pete of the Flying Burrito Brothers, and that was 1970.
I believe you pretty much taught yourself the instrument. Was that a difficult process for you?
It really wasn't. I just would sit and play with records, and I already had a pretty good grasp of musical theory by then. But there wasn't any teachers, hardly any teachers in California that at that time. And I asked Sneaky Pete if he would give me lessons, and he said he was too busy. He was on the road, so I just basically sat down with records in my bedroom and played along with them till I got a handle on it, and then started playing in clubs, 5 sets a night. And that's the best practice you can get, playing with bands, every night for 5 hours.
Was there a lot of work around for pedal steel players in California back in?
Yeah, there was enough country. It was more of a real country music going on, and that's when I started playing the straight country music, Merle Haggard and Buck Owens and that kind of stuff for a while.
How ambitious were you back then? Did you have a design? How ambitious were you in those early days?
Oh yeah, I was very ambitious. It was what I wanted to do, and I loved doing it. And I was just, that's all I did is eat and breathe steel guitar for the longest time. I even quit playing guitar for a while, but now I'm back to it. I play guitar and steel in the studios. But I had to just devote myself to that instrument for like 5 or 6 years and nothing but steel, to get a good grasp on it.
Do you remember your first recording session of note?
I guess the first major one I did was with Jon Stewart. He used to be in the Kingston Trio, and we did an album called The Phoenix Concerts, which was a live double album that RCA released in 1974. That was my first album, and then I did another one with him after that called Wingless Angels, and then the next record was Prisoner in Disguise. Then I joined Linda Ronstadt's band and did in '74, and then she'd already done Heart Like a Wheel, so my first one with her was Prisoner in Disguise album that had Tracks of My Tears and I Will Always Love You and some of those songs on it. And so that was probably my biggest one of the early ones.
How did you hook up with Jon Stewart?
Actually, we were just we went to see him play at the Troubadour, and I'd gone to see Neil Young a couple days before with my wife in concert, and I told her, I said, that's what I want to do. I want to be up on the stage. And then the next 2 nights later, we went to see Jon Stewart, and he was at the Troubadour, and I gave him my card. I saw him backstage. I said, if you want to add a steel player, I'm looking for work. And he called me 2 days later and told me to come down and audition at the Troubadour, and I was immediately got the job, and I was on the road the next week. It happened really fast.
And was that a good initiation to life on the road?
Yeah, it was good. I'd never toured or anything, and so it was exciting to get to go out and play big concerts. You know, I'd never done that before.
Now, I believe Jon wasn't all that happy when you left his band to join up with Linda Ronstadt.
No, he wasn't. You know, understandably so, because we were just in the process of doing the Wingless Angel album, and he was used to having a steel in his band since I'd been in his band for about 2 years. But I really, I didn't know Linda was going to make it as big as she did. I just really liked her music, you know, and I really wanted to go play more country rock than he was doing. And so when I got the offer to go play with her, I told him that I was going to do it, and he was very unhappy, of course. But we finally ended up becoming friends again, but he was mad for a while.
It's all water under the bridge now.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, you're with Linda during an incredibly successful time in her career. Any standout memories of that time?
Well, you know, when I joined her, she just cut Heart Like a Wheel, which I think was probably her biggest album, you know, the one that really kicked her in on the pop charts. And that was just, I was just going to play the music, and that was all new stuff I hadn't heard, and we worked up all those tunes, you know, You're No Good and When Will I Be Loved, when Andrew Gold was in the band, and we were out there touring, and I remember that all of a sudden the record started shooting up the charts, and Peter Asher said, I remember he was booking by the end of the tour of a 5-week tour, he told the promoter that the record was going to be #1 by then. He made a bet with the promoter that he said he wanted something like $25,000 for Linda for the concert, and this is in '74, and the promoter said, she doesn't even have a #1 record. And Peter said, well, he says it'll be #1 by the time we get there. He says, I'll tell you what, if we're not #1, we'll play the concert for free, and if it is #1, you'll pay us the $25,000. He made a bet even, which was pretty strong of his own money. But of course, and then by being then when he could show that he got that much, he could get it from everybody else. So that was pretty exciting watching. We were all hoping it could get there, you know, before the last week of the tour. But it was thrilling. It was exciting times.
How was she as a band leader? Did she give the guys in the band pretty much a free hand to come up with ideas and contribute that way to the band?
Yeah, she did during all that period. It was pretty much you make up your own part and come up with it. You know, now of course nowadays touring, she wants, you know, when we toured, you know, about '95, she was more insistent on the parts being just like the record now, you know. But back then it was like you were able to just, because we were making the record, everybody was able to come up with their own part and be involved in the arranging of it. And we would just rehearse, you know, for a week or two before the album. So it was pretty much everybody had a free hand. Which is pretty much the way we still do it out here. You know, nothing is ever written out. It's pretty much just they write out the chord changes and as a roadmap, but everybody comes up with their own part. There's no parts written out in music or anything. It's just chord changes. So that makes you feel like you have more contribution to the record.
Sure. Are you able to single out a recording with Linda that you're most proud of your own contribution to?
I would probably say Blue Bayou has been the most, you know, everybody has mentioned that one to me more than anything, and I am proud of that one. Mm. But that was a big record for her, and I think it was a gold single, actually, which is hard to get. I was really proud of that particular recording.
For yourself back in those days, what was more important to you, the recording or the touring side of things?
Oh, it was important to do both. I was insisting on, I really wanted to be on the records. I felt that the records were, something that I was like, if I wasn't going to be on the records, I was going to go be with another band that I could be on the records, because I sort of felt that was really the thing which you're going to sort of leave a mark down, but that long after we're gone, the records will still be here. So I wanted to be on some records. First, I just wanted to be on any record, and then I wanted to be on good records. Once you get past that, but I've been pretty lucky just to make a living at just being a recording musician.
Yeah. Just wandering through your website and having a look at the list of sessions that you've worked on over years, it's an extremely impressive list. Taking away the
website, unfortunately, I haven't updated it. It's like stopped, I think, in 1998. We just have been getting involved in going to redo it all. There's a thing called allmusic.com. Are you familiar with that?
All Music, yes, I am. Yeah, the All Music Guide. Yep.
Yeah, that's the one that has a listing of my discography up till 2003 and everything, with quite a few things that I'd left out. But that's a good one to go to.
Aside from your work with Linda and with Jon Stewart, what other session would you be most proud of?
Well, I was with James Taylor I started recording with him in '76 on his greatest hits album, Something in the Way She Moves, and In My Mind I'm Going to Carolina. And then I started just playing like on a couple tunes of each album, because Peter Asher was also producing him too. And then I joined his band in 1980 through 88, I guess it was 87. So that was a good period too. I was thrilling to record and play with James Taylor, and that was probably my next big thrill.
To the other end of the scale, would there be any nightmare sessions that looking back now you wish you hadn't done?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear the question.
You're going to the other end of the...
Just joking. But gosh, there's nothing that would stand out. Usually, I mean, the thing is, it's usually if we do a session and you're not happy with it, you don't have to. You just try and do your best you can, and you're really not committed anymore. It's not like you put in your 3 hours and try and do the best you can with it, and then you just let it go. That's the good thing about it.
Yeah.
Being that nowadays if something you don't like, it's still over with. And the problem is, if it's something you really like, it's over with in 3 hours.
You've certainly played behind a lot of singer-songwriter types over the years. And is there a golden rule for you when playing behind these types of performers where the lyrics are such an important part of their music?
Yes, I always, when they play us the song, I listen down for the lyrics. I'm listening to the lyrics, but I'm also listening for where the holes are in between. Because the main thing is you want to try and just sort of embellish around it and not be playing on top of where they're singing, unless if it requires like a pad or something, just a padding sound. But otherwise, if you're like playing licks, you try and make sure you listen for where there's holes. I'll look at the chart and mark on my chart where there's a hole where he's not singing, where some musical lick needs to be placed in there. And so it's sort of like just arranging. You get real quick in your head, and you try and hear how to embellish it. But it just seems to work every time as a golden rule, is to not be stepping on top of the words or playing the same note that the singer's singing, trying to stay off of that too.
Is it important for you in the studio when you're in a session situation and playing surrounded by other session players to still feel like you're part of a complete band unit? Is that important to have that feel still in the studio?
It does, because most of these guys that record here, there's probably about 4 bass players and 4 acoustic players and 4 electric players and 4 steel players, 4 piano players, 4 or 5 that are the basic guys that are used here. So it's really a knit, maybe 30 studio musicians that are all the same guys that are doing most of the work. So when I go into a session, I pretty much know all the guys that are in there. It's not like the first time I've met them. We all know each other or see each other. Sometimes we won't see each other for a couple months, depending on what band you're playing mixed up with. But we pretty much all know each other. It's like very brotherly, friendly.
Yeah,
and comfortable with each other. And about any one of these guys could fill that spot. It would be good. They're all top players. So it's very comfortable. We're pretty much it's a big teamwork. We're all working together. And that's why I think the producers use the same guys, because there's stuff that gets going on that you don't even need to talk about, you know. And if we have like if somebody brings in their own musician, like say their lead guitar player from their band or something, sometimes that throws a wrench in the whole deal. You know, it's funny because he doesn't know the way we do things.
Now, I believe at home you have quite an extensive collection of vintage guitars.
Yes, I do. I've been, you know, collecting my whole life, and when I moved here, they have a bunch of they call them vintage guitar shows that I started going to and started collecting guitars. Plus, I was, you know, once I started just working straight in the studio, I realized that how many that the producers like to have different choices of colors, you know, so you don't only have like one acoustic guitar like I used to. Now I have arch top ones, I have gut string ones that have a different sound, I have Gibsons and Martins and high strung and everything. So I ended up collecting more guitars, and the vintage ones just seem to really have a warmer tone because the wood is aged, you know, and they've been played, and they seem to record better. The recording, when you put the mic on them, it just, you know, it's like putting a microscope on it. Just blows up the sound so much that you can really tell a good instrument from one that's not, you know, quite as well. So I just started collecting, and I've got a nice collection of electrics and acoustics and some mandolins now, and old pedal steels and lap steels, and have quite a few instruments.
So is it a case for you that you feel like they just don't make guitars like they used to?
Well, you know what, the quality, you know, that's sort of been true, only nowadays I would almost take it back, because I think Fender and Gibson now are both really making really good guitars again, and Martin too. I think they realized that they weren't making them like they used to, you know, and everybody started going back and buying the vintage ones because they didn't sound, the new ones weren't as good. They were heavier, and the finishes they put on them like closed up the sound, and they were used to use this old finish called nitrocellulose, and now they've gone back to it and lets the wood breathe through the finish, actually. So I think they're actually making really good guitars again, which is a good thing. But I think because they realized that they've gone back and studied the vintage instruments, you know, taken them apart and weighed them and measured them to the micrometer, and now I think they're making really good guitars again. So I'm pleased with that. I already have so many that I really don't need one.
Is there any one item in your collection that has pride and place?
That has what, pardon me? Any
special items in your collection that have special pride and place for you?
Well, I've got my first J200 that my mom and dad bought me back in 1967 as a prized instrument. That's the one I've had the longest anyway, because I always kept trading guitars, but they made me not trade that one. They made me swear I wouldn't trade that one. So, you know, in the old, back then, people used to you had to sell a guitar to get another guitar. People didn't have collections, you know. And so now it's great to just hold that. I've held on to that one. And I've just bought a new vintage 1953 J200 that's my favorite guitar right now. That a friend of mine sold me, but I'll still always keep the other one. And I also have a 1949 Gibson Southern Jumbo that I think is probably my favorite acoustic guitar for recording in the studio. And that's the year I was born. It's fun having a guitar made the year you were born. Mac McAnally, he has a Gibson J200 that was from 1957 when he was born, and I said, gosh, that'd be neat to have a birth year guitar. So I finally found a 49, so that was neat to have. And my pedal steel, I still use the one I like the most is a 1972 Showbud, and that's the one I used on all of Linda's and James's records on Blue Bayou, and those, and that's the one I still use in the studio today. You know, I like Dina Carter's Strawberry Wine. It's the same guitar I used on Blue Bayou. So I was like going, boy, it's just it's got a good sound, and it's been on some big records. So I feel real close to that one.
For sure, as you would. Now, just talk about the work you're doing nowadays over there. What would be a typical working week for you there in Nashville now?
Well, Well, I pretty much go in most every day. I do. You know, they have demo sessions here too. That you know about those?
Yeah.
The publishing demos, and when the songwriters write their songs, they write them on a guitar or piano, and then when they want to present the songs to a producer or to an artist, they, rather than just play them a guitar vocal demo, they go in the studio and cut it with bass and drums and steel guitars and electric guitars to make it sound more like a record. So when they play them the song, it might catch them. There might be a hit lick on there, you know, or something catchy to try and sell the song. So I still do those recording demo sessions. All our sessions are like, they're based on 3-hour periods. And a time period is one session is 3 hours. And so what they did here in Nashville to make sure that you could, in Los Angeles, we used to maybe only do one session a day. But here, because there's so much work going on, they regulate it so that they try and keep the 3-hour sessions all, but they don't conflict. So they start at 10 in the morning till 1 o'clock, and then there's an hour break, and then from 2 o'clock till 5 o'clock, an hour break, and from 6 till 9. And so that way you can feasibly do 3 sessions in a day, you know, 3 different places. Or sometimes if you're doing an album, they might book 2 sessions for the same day, and you just stay there, you know, from 10 till 5 or from 2 till 9. And so I'll basically head in the morning, and depending on what I have, go from studio to studio. I have a cartage company that will deliver my amps and steels and everything and set up the steel. So that way when I'm heading to the next session, they're tearing down and moving stuff and setting it up at the next studio in that hour in between, you know. So at first I couldn't believe it, but a lot of times now I'll come and I'll have three sessions a day at 3 different places. But you never know. And some days it depends on the phone ringing, you know, whether you're going to work or not.
It can come at quite short notice.
Yes, and sometimes they'll call me and just say, hey, we just decided that we've cut a track and we just decided to add a steel guitar at the last minute, you know, or the record company says it needs a steel, and I'll just go right in and record on that track, you know, and because they've already cut it. As where if they're going to do a tracking session, they usually book those a couple weeks ahead to get all the people they want, the drummer and the bass player and the guitar players and everything. But for overdubs, like what I do, also I can do that. Sometimes I'll get called the very last minute just to come run in and overdub on something.
Any specific album project you've worked on recently that we can look forward to?
Yeah, I just did this. I'm working on a new Willie Nelson record. That should be out. I'm on the new Willie one at his 70th birthday party. Okay. You hear about that?
I have heard a bit about it, yeah.
Yeah, we taped it up in New York with, you know, Ray Charles and Eric Clapton and Sheryl Crow and all sorts of famous stars, and that just came out as an album now, that of Willie's. And I'm on the Montgomery. We're doing new Montgomery Gentry, but that last one that was out, I played on that on My Town and a song called Speed. There were hits. I don't know. Do you guys have Montgomery Gentry back there?
We hear of them, not as high a profile here as over there.
Probably. I wasn't sure about that. Let's see. I'm working on. Just did some Leanne Rhymes. I just worked on Reba McEntire's new record. That'll be coming out, and I'm working on a new Shadazy record.
So obviously doing a lot of work well, obviously being in Nashville, you'll be doing a lot of work in the country field. What do you think of the state of country music nowadays?
I think it's coming back around. I think it hit a period for a while where you couldn't tell an artist from the other artist. They were all sounding alike to me. It was hard to tell, you know. But now I think it's the people are more. When the guy comes on the radio, you can tell who it is. You know, I think they've gotten back around to. They've gone through a big change now with the business kind of slowing down, and record companies they've been changing heads, have been switching around and cutting acts. A lot of acts that were signed have been cut. So I think now just only the ones that really have something to say are going to hang in there. I just worked on a Mary Chapin Carpenter. Are you familiar with her?
Yeah, for sure.
Just a new record with her. Oh, and I'm also thrilled about. I did this record with Mark Knopfler and Emmylou Harris, a duets record.
Okay.
that's going to be really good. And I think Mark unfortunately got in a motorcycle accident that put it all on hold. But he's doing okay, but they had to cancel his tour and everything. But I think that's going to be a really great record. It was some really amazing songs, and he and Emmy sounded great together.
Yes.
So hopefully that'll be coming out in 6 months to a year, whenever he gets it all done.
Now, something else I found wandering through your website, and totally unrelated to music, you're involved with the Yorkshire Terriers, is it?
Yes, my wife is the national chairman of Yorkshire Terrier Rescue, and what they do is they find Yorkies that need a home that will either be put down or whatever. They adopt them out and find homes for them and take care of their medical and get them fixed up and then adopt them. And gosh, they've saved over 700 Yorkies, I think, now in the past 5 years.
Wow.
So that's really a good thing. And my wife used to show Yorkies, and now she's just involved in the rescue, and I help her with that. But and she works mainly on the on the internet. She has people all around the country, so they keep in touch. And if ever a dog shows up, they find a home for it. So it's a good thing.
Wonderful. And just to finish up, Dan, career advice for young guitar players on the way up. What would be your standard piece of advice?
Pardon me? I didn't quite hear that.
Career advice for a young guitar player just on the way up. What would be your standard advice to them?
I would say just to listen to everything that's out there, and keep an open mind and just if anything to play. I think the best thing for my playing was to actually, when I got my club gig, was to it's hard to have the discipline to sit down. Nobody's going to sit down and practice 5 hours a night. So I think if they could get a gig with their band or somewhere where they can play a lot or in a band, I think that's the best education is just getting out there playing live and with other musicians. It's a good thing, but always keep your ears open and listen to what other people are playing. Because sometimes people it's all about them, and they're really just hearing themselves and not what everybody else is playing. And that's the trick to ensemble playing is to listen to what everybody else is and find a part that works with everybody. That's not all about you.
Absolutely. Look, Dan, thanks for your time. Much appreciated. I'm glad we finally got together.
Okay. Thank you so much for calling, and I appreciate it. I do have a record that's solo record. I just want to tell you that I've just finished that I'm going to be putting out, and it's a steel guitar record of all Beatles songs.
Oh wow!
And I played everything on it. I wanted to do an album that was very mellow, that you could listen to, just put on like by the swimming pool or for dinner, or something that was pretty and not. So there's no up-tempo songs. It's just all pretty Beatle ballads like Blackbird and I Will and Because and Something and Eleanor Rigby. But it's all just really pretty. And some tracks I cut it all out here at my house, and some tracks have 4 or 5 tracks of steel on it. But it's something different, and I'm just pressing it up myself. I'm going to have that on my website, so I'll have to get you a copy.
Oh, yeah, please do. We'll
would I mail it to you?
Yeah, well, drop me an email when it's ready, and I'll give you all my details. In fact, I'll just send you an email with all my details on there anyway.
That would be great.
Yeah, that'd be fantastic.
Yeah, give me the email with that, and it should be. We're pressing it right now, so in a couple of weeks it should be done, and I would love to send you a copy.
Oh, tremendous. I'll put it to air with this interview. That'd be great. Okay. Thanks a lot, Dan.
Thank you so much.
All the best.
Well, I hope to talk to you again.
That'd be great. Thanks a lot for your time.
Have a good day.
You too.
Bye-bye.
Bye.